Point 1. What's up with hillbilly culture today? J.D. Vance, a true son of the Appalachian Mountains, gives us a raw and real look into the life of the hillbilly culture in America. These folks, mostly Scots-Irish, stretch from the deep south of Alabama and Georgia, all the way up to Ohio and parts of New York. We've all heard of the American dream, right? The idea that no matter where you come from or what your folks do for a living, you can make it big if you work hard enough. Well, Vance tells us that this dream isn't quite the same for everyone, especially not for the hillbillies. The Appalachians, as Vance shows us, are a tough place to live. There's a lot of poverty, families break up a lot, and it's hard to move up in the world. The American dream, with its promise of hope and a better life, seems like a far-off fantasy for these folks. Now, the hillbilly culture is a proud one, with deep roots and traditions that have been around for hundreds of years. They value loyalty, family, and love their country. But, these good things can sometimes be overshadowed by the not-so-good. Hillbillies tend to be wary of folks who aren't like them, which can make it hard to fit in with the rest of society. Imagine being suspicious of someone just because they don't look or talk like you. This kind of thinking can hold you back, making it hard to step out of your comfort zone or see things from a different perspective. Vance gives us a real, first-hand look at what it's like to be a working-class white American, especially if you're a hillbilly. He says that the way of life and thinking in the hillbilly culture can actually make it harder to move up in the world. In a nutshell, the hillbilly culture, with its old traditions and distrust of outsiders, is in a tough spot. The American dream, which promises a better life for everyone, seems out of reach for these folks. According to Vance, this is the hard truth of the hillbilly culture today. Point 2. Why is being a hillbilly seen as a bad thing? J.D. Vance, the man behind the words you're reading, is a true blue hillbilly. Now, before you get any ideas, let's clear up what that means. A hillbilly isn't just a term for folks from the sticks. It's a label often slapped on folks from the poor, rural parts of the U.S., especially the Appalachian region. Despite being born into a world of poverty and violence, J.D. managed to claw his way out and become a successful lawyer, author, and politician. But, he's never been able to shake off the shadow of his hillbilly roots, a theme he digs into in this memoir. J.D.'s tale starts with his grandparents, Jim Vance and Bonnie Blanton, or Mama and Pawpaw as he fondly calls them. They were born and bred in Jackson, Kentucky, a tiny town smack dab in the middle of the Appalachian region. After losing their baby girl in the 1940s, they packed up and moved to Middletown, Ohio, a steel mill town that promised better jobs than the coal mines back home. Even though they found financial stability in Middletown, Mama and Pawpaw couldn't shake off the hillbilly label. Their middle-class neighbors saw them as outsiders. Their ways, like their quick tempers, big families, and habit of letting relatives crash with them for long stretches, didn't exactly win them any popularity contests. Mama and Pawpaw had 3 kids, Jimmy, Bev, J.D.'s mom, and Lori, who J.D. calls Aunt Wee. By the time Jimmy was born in 1951, it seemed like they'd settled into their new life in Middletown, becoming a regular working-class family in a thriving neighborhood. But, the picture-perfect image cracked when Pawpaw turned to the bottle. Despite looking like a typical middle-class family, the Vances were privately wrestling with the fallout of Pawpaw's drinking. He became violent and cheated, causing a lot of heartache in the family. Mama, desperate to stop her husband's destructive behavior, took extreme measures. In one shocking incident, she soaked her drunk husband in gasoline and set him alight. Thankfully, one of their kids put out the fire before it caused serious harm. Even with all the drama, Mama and Pawpaw never officially split. After moving out, Pawpaw quit drinking and tried to make up for his past mistakes. But, the ghost of their hillbilly past and the trauma they'd been through kept haunting the family. In this memoir, J.D. uses his own life to shine a light on the bigger issues plaguing the hillbilly culture, like poverty, drug abuse, and the lasting stigma tied to this marginalized group. Despite his own success, J.D.'s story is a stark reminder of the hurdles many folks from this culture face, and the lifelong impact these hurdles can have. Point 3. What was Vance's childhood like? In Hillbilly Elegy, J.D. Vance gives us a raw and honest look at his early years, a time filled with family chaos, financial struggles, and personal battles. Vance was born into a family where violence and instability were the norm. This had a deep impact on all the kids in the family, who had to grow up fast and leave home early. Take Vance's Uncle Jimmy, for example. He managed to break free from the family's destructive cycle and build a successful career at Johnson & Johnson, becoming the first in the Vance family to hold down a steady job. Then there's Vance's Aunt Lori, or Aunt Wee as she's known. She quit high school at 16 and ended up in a violent marriage. But with her family's help, she got out of that situation, married a good man, and eventually built a successful career in radiology. Vance's mom, Bev, wasn't so lucky. The emotional wounds from her own abusive childhood ran deep, and she struggled to keep her life on track. Even with her parents footing the bill for nursing school, Bev couldn't keep a job. She got caught up in drugs and bounced from one marriage to another, just like she bounced in and out of rehab. Vance himself was born in 1984 in Middletown, Ohio, a town in the Rust Belt. The Rust Belt is a region in the U.S. that was once booming with manufacturing jobs but has seen a decline in recent years. During Vance's childhood, Middletown's economy took a nosedive. Poverty and crime rates shot up, property values plummeted, and folks found it hard to move away. The town's biggest employer, a steel company called Armco, shipped most of its jobs overseas, leaving a lot of people jobless. Vance's dad, Don Bowman, married Bev after she split from Lindsay's dad, her high school sweetheart whom she married at 19. But Bev's marriage to Bowman didn't last, and she left him when Vance was still a little kid. This meant Vance grew up without a steady father figure, only knowing his mom's string of boyfriends. This lack of stability took a toll on Vance's schoolwork, and he almost got kicked out of high school. In a nutshell, Vance's early years were filled with family chaos, financial struggles, and personal battles. But despite these hurdles, he managed to rise above them and eventually penned a memoir about his experiences, offering a unique insight into the struggles many families in the Rust Belt face. Point 4. Does hard work really pay off? In Hillbilly Elegy, J.D. Vance tells us a story about how grit and hard work can help you overcome life's toughest challenges. His own life is a testament to this, as he fights his way out of a cycle of poverty and instability that's all too common in his hometown. During his high school years, Vance moves in with his grandma, Mama. This is a game changer for him. Mama is a tough cookie, and she lays down the law in a way his mom never could. She's got 3 rules for him: do well in school, get a job, and help out around the house. These might seem like basic things, but for Vance, they're a wake-up call. They teach him about responsibility and the value of hard work. Mama's rule about school is a big one. When Vance gets into a fancy math class, Mama, even though she's not exactly rolling in dough, buys him a pricey graphing calculator. This isn't just about the calculator, though. It's about showing Vance how important education is. It lights a fire under him. If Mama is willing to put her money where her mouth is, then he needs to step up his game. This pushes him to work harder, and it pays off when he nails the SATs. But Mama doesn't just care about school. She also wants Vance to get a job. She knows that earning your own money, no matter what kind of job you have, teaches you about its value and gives you real-world experience. So, Vance gets a job as a cashier at a local grocery store, Dillman's. It's not glamorous, and it doesn't pay much, but it teaches him a lot. He learns new skills and gains a new respect for the folks who do these kinds of jobs every day. Vance's story shows us that with enough determination and hard work, you can overcome just about anything. His life is proof that no matter how tough things get, you can always rise above it if you're willing to put in the effort. This is a powerful message, and it's one that gives us all a bit of hope, even when life seems pretty bleak. Point 5. What does it take to be successful? J.D. Vance's journey from a rough childhood to a successful adulthood is a tale worth telling. One of the main ideas he explores is what it takes to be confident and successful, and he does this by sharing his own experiences. After high school, J.D. decided to join the Marines. His family wasn't too thrilled about it, especially his grandma, Mama. She was worried about his safety and the tough life in the military. She even tried to talk him out of it, sometimes using harsh words. But J.D. stuck to his guns. He showed a kind of confidence and determination that eventually won his family over. Even Mama, who was the most against it at first, ended up supporting him. Her support was a big deal for J.D. as he went through the tough physical and emotional challenges of boot camp. Letters from his family, filled with encouraging words, gave him a sense of love and belonging that was really important, especially considering his unstable and violent childhood. Being in the Marines changed J.D. It not only made him physically stronger, but it also opened his eyes to different kinds of people from all walks of life. This experience helped him learn more about himself and where he came from, which helped him grow as a person. In 2005, J.D. lost his grandma to a lung infection. Mama had been a rock in his life, always there with support and encouragement. Her death hit him hard, but he found comfort in knowing that she had given him the tools he needed to succeed. After leaving the military in 2007, J.D. went to Ohio State University. He worked his tail off in college, a habit he got from his grandma. All that hard work paid off when he graduated at the top of his class in less than 2 years. In the end, J.D.'s path to confidence and success wasn't a straight line. He had to deal with his family's opposition, the tough life in the military, personal loss, and a lot of hard work to get where he is today. His story shows that being confident and successful isn't just about reaching your goals. It's also about being resilient, determined, and learning and growing from your experiences. Point 6. Can you really move up in the world? J.D. Vance, the guy who penned down his life story, takes us on a journey from his humble beginnings in Middletown, Ohio, to the highfalutin corridors of Yale Law School. This ain't just a change of address, folks. It's a massive leap in what they call socioeconomic status, a fancy term for where you stand in society based on your paycheck, your education, and your job. After getting his bachelor's degree, Vance had his sights set on law school. Yale was his top pick, a big-shot Ivy League school. Sure, he was staring down the barrel of a $200,000 student loan, but he was hell-bent on making it happen. And boy, did it pay off. In 2010, he got his golden ticket to Yale Law's class of 2013. Now, here's where things get interesting. Vance's tight budget, which could have been a roadblock, turned out to be a blessing in disguise. Yale Law School saw his need and offered him a hefty financial aid package. We're talking tens of thousands of dollars here, folks. This meant Vance could attend Yale almost for free. For the first time, his empty pockets had led to something good. When Vance first set foot on Yale's campus, he was gobsmacked by its grandeur and the history it held. The folks he met there were a different breed too. In his first week, he got to hear Tony Blair, the former British Prime Minister, speak and even ran into New York Governor George Pataki. Despite his modest upbringing, Vance held his own in the classroom. He even managed to wow a hard-to-please professor with his writing. But, even with these wins, he felt like a fish out of water. Most of his classmates were from well-off families, expecting to rake in over $160,000 a year after graduation. Back in Middletown, that kind of money was a pipe dream for most folks. This stark contrast got Vance thinking about the chasm between his past and future. He also wrestled with guilt for leaving his roots behind. He knew his hillbilly folks didn't think much of the elite, which made it hard for him to fully embrace his new Ivy League identity and his future as a white-collar professional. This struggle shows the emotional roller coaster that often comes with climbing the social ladder, as folks try to balance where they come from with where they're headed. Point 7. What's the real cost of ignorance? In Hillbilly Elegy, J.D. Vance takes us on a journey from his humble beginnings in the Kentucky Appalachians to the esteemed corridors of Yale Law School. Along the way, he introduces us to a concept that's as important as it is overlooked: social capital. Now, what's social capital? It's not about how much money you have in the bank, but rather who you know and how you interact with them. It's about the relationships you have with the people around you, and how those relationships can help you get ahead in life. When Vance first stepped foot in Yale, he was a fish out of water. Sure, he had the smarts, he wouldn't have gotten into Yale otherwise, but he didn't have the social skills or the connections that his wealthier classmates had. They knew how to schmooze at parties, impress professors, and network their way into job opportunities. Vance, on the other hand, was starting from scratch. This lack of social capital, Vance argues, is a big roadblock for folks trying to climb the social ladder. It's not enough to be smart or hardworking. If you don't know the right people or how to navigate social situations, you're going to have a tough time breaking into the upper crust of society. This is the unfathomable cost of ignorance that Vance talks about, the missed chances and unrealized potential that come from not understanding or having access to social capital. But Vance's story isn't all doom and gloom. Despite his rocky start, he was able to build up his social capital during his time at Yale. He made friends who knew the ropes and helped him learn how to navigate this new world. Vance's journey from rags to riches is a testament to his grit and determination. But it also shines a light on the systemic hurdles that make it hard for folks from disadvantaged backgrounds to move up in the world. His story underscores the importance of social capital and the steep price of not knowing its value. To give you an idea of what Vance was up against, consider this: the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, says that kids who go through tough times like Vance did are more likely to struggle with health problems like anxiety, depression, and heart disease. Despite these odds, Vance managed to rise above his circumstances and find success. But he had to first understand and overcome the cost of ignorance about social capital. Point 8. Conclusion. Overcoming adversity is a journey that requires resilience, determination, and a strong sense of self. The struggles faced by the working class in rural America are real and deeply rooted in cultural and societal issues. However, these challenges do not define one's destiny. Education and mentorship can serve as powerful tools to break the cycle of poverty and despair. It's crucial to recognize the importance of social capital and the role it plays in providing opportunities for upward mobility. Family, despite its flaws and complexities, is a source of strength and identity. It's important to acknowledge the impact of family history on personal development, while also striving to make positive changes for future generations. The American dream is not dead, but it requires hard work, perseverance, and a belief in one's ability to rise above circumstances. It's not about where you come from, but where you're going and the choices you make along the way. Understanding and empathy are key in addressing the cultural divide. It's essential to listen to the voices of those who feel left behind and to work toward solutions that promote inclusivity and equality. In the end, it's about finding a sense of belonging and purpose, and realizing that everyone has a unique story to tell.